Okay, today we are going to do a major rebuild on the air motor. This is a 4-inch. These are all the major components. We're also going to do a major rebuild on a control valve assembly, which is on the top of the air motor. And we're also going to show how to clean the manifold just in case you got catalyst backed up into your system. So we're going to do a major clean. We're going to start off with disassembling the air motor from the stand. You can do this while it's upright as well. You got 2 bolts on the bottom, if you can see, one in the back corner and one in the front. These are socket head screw caps. They're a 1/4 inch Allen key. So 1/4 inch. The easiest way is to pop them out from the bottom, unscrew. I loosen most of these up so to make this a little quicker. And we can separate the air motor from the stand. And put that aside. Now we got our manifold. So on top, you got 2 bolts. You want to disconnect the hose that is usually attached from here to the manifold. It's easy, you push in and pull out. So I'm going to unscrew this from the top. We're going to set that aside. Now we got the air motor and the control valve assembly. So we're going to separate the control valve assembly from the top of the air motor. I usually find a cylinder with a hole in it. Put a rag in it so you can put the piston in the bottom and let it sit. Alright, there we go. So we got 2 bolts, one here and one in the back. That separates the block from the top of the air motor. Then you also have another bolt that connects the piston rod to the air motor shaft. So first thing I usually do is take the hockey puck off, which is this piece. It's a Phillips head. I usually once the Phillips heads are loose, it should pop right off. That pulls right out. It's connected to the pump shaft, if you can see. We put a flat on the top of the bar, right there. So what I do is I push it down. This is it's a 5/16 flat. So I put it on the edge of the pump shaft, like so. As well, this is, let's see, it's a 3/16 Allen key. So you just unscrew. Once it's loose, you should be able to pull up and just unnaturally unscrew it. That's that. It does have a lock washer on it. We'll set that aside. Now we can take the actual control valve manifold off the air motor. This is 960. And that is a 532 Allen key. So we're on a screw, unscrew. And there's your control valve assembly. We're going to set this aside for later. And we are at the air motor now. Air motor has two OB16 O-rings on the top for the control assembly. Also has a washer and a cup seal. This is usually full of Vaseline, petroleum jelly. We use it for lubrication. We're going to take these off for now because we're going to be replacing the O-rings and the U-cup. So we'll put those aside. Now that we got everything off the top, we can turn it around on the bottom. You have it connecting on the end. This needs to come off. This usually has blue Loctite on it, so it's a little tight. What I usually do is find a screwdriver or a wrench that fits this hole exactly, so not to bend or warp the edges, and then unscrew it, because you won't be able to take the piston out of the back of the block without taking this off first. We'll set that aside. So now that we got the control valve off the top and the connector off the bottom, we can take the bolts off and separate the top and bottom plates from the cylinder. You're going to use a 9/16 socket wrench. 9/16, both ends. And we are going to loosen everything. Like I said, I've already loosened everything by hand. Now this is going to come with washer, lock washer, and a nut. Set those aside. It's going to top with a washer on top. I usually put everything together so I don't lose it. And we'll do that for all four. Now that we got all the bolts off the air motor, we're going to be able to separate this blocks from the cylinder. This is an airflow tube. They are connected with two O-rings. They sit inside. So we're going to try to separate these. I imagine it's going to be a little tough if you have gelled or backed up catalyst into the air motor. So it's going to take a little wiggling to get it off. So I usually go around in a circle and try to loosen. Once it's loosened, you should be able to pull it up. And you'll see the piston, the air tube. You can twist this out. You see that it has two O-rings on each end. We will be placing this as well. And set that aside. You have an O-ring in here. It creates a seal along the edge. We'll be replacing this as well. Let's set all this aside. Now that we got that, we can take the cylinder, pull straight up. So I'm going to push this out. You got your cylinder. You want to that aside. Your pump shaft. Inside here is a piston and it has a spring inside, and that's how it changes to go the up and down stroke. So that's how we'll be changing this O-ring out. And in here we got the O-ring as well, so we're going to pull that out. So now the air motor is completely disassembled, we can clean everything. If you got catalyst backed up in your system, I recommend using water, soaking these, getting this all nice and clean. You do not want to scrub this because you want this nice and smooth. So paper towel, anything soft. You don't want to put any deep scratches into this. It's a very smooth cylinder. So get it all nice and clean, all the edges nice. No burrs or nothing that could cut that O-ring. You just want to double check, make everything's good. Same as inside. Want to clean all these little grooves along where the O-ring sits. You can see it's right inside here. Same with the top. You can always tell the top because you have the two holes in the top for the control valve assembly, but there is an O-ring inside here, and on the top there's no internal guts. On the bottom plate there is. As you can see, we have a retaining ring, we have a washer, cup seal, another washer, a guide, it's a plastic guide, and also a wiper on the edge. These are all in your notes with your manual. As you see, everything I pointed out is the internal. You got retaining ring, washer, U-cup, washer again, a guide, and then a wiper, and all those go into the bottom. So to get to those, you need a retaining ring. Get that out. Squeeze. I usually hold so it doesn't pop at you like it just did. These are not the easiest. It's usually to do on a flat surface, not like I'm trying to do, it's showing you. You got that out. Take the retaining ring out. That is good. You could always use that. Washer. U-cup. This is full with Vaseline, petroleum jelly. Another washer. Your guide. Guides the shaft. And then inside you have a washer. Or a wiper, I'm sorry. So once all those are out, you want to make sure you clean everything. You do have a tube hole. It's on the back, and you have a set screw that holds it in. It's usually with Teflon tape, but you're going to want to wash and clean your hole out with water, acetone at last. Make sure it's all clean. Re-Teflon tape. So once you get everything clean, we'll get you a rebuild kit with all these parts. You're going to want to do the same thing as we tore apart and go reverse to put it all back together. So you got your wiper, as you see. It's pretty thick on one eye and thinner on the front. You want the thin part facing out. So I'm going to put that in. Push it in with your thumb until you can see that it's coming out just a little bit. And push that in as hard as you can and it will stay nice and flush. Next is your guide. This is going to fit in as well. It's It's going to go flush along that seat. Washer, hold it in place. This is your U-cup seal. Use Vaseline and fill it. This cup inside. Fill it with Vaseline all the way around. This is going to be the new one when you're replacing it. So you're going to want to fill it with Vaseline. Once it's totally full with Vaseline all the way around, we're going to put it in. It's going to sit nice. We're going to get the washer and push it down. You'll see a little groove where the retaining ring fits. You put the retaining ring. There's two sides of this. One is kind of a rounded and the other is flat. I always put the flat side down. It makes it easier later down the road if you ever have to take this apart again. You want to make sure it clicks into place. Then we're going to install our O-ring. It goes inside the groove. You're going to want to use Molly Note. Use a little bit of Molly Note. Put it on your fingers, rub it around. And you want it to fit inside that groove without any of it really sticking out for it to catch. I usually do is I put a little bit of Vaseline on my finger. I just kind of rub this edge so it slides in really easy. You can do it with, I have a little bit on my finger still, do the other side. We're gonna set it in, try to get it as even as possible and push down. You'll hear it click, you should. I usually twist it a little bit and look inside to make sure I didn't catch any O-ring, like I nicked it. So you want to look around these edges to see if you see a piece of O-ring you might have nicked. Twist it around. It'll show, you'll be able to see it. This one was perfect. So I'm going to set that down. Now we're going to change out this O-ring because it was damaged during the catalyst backup. These are usually really easy to pop on and off. Pick, I'll show you. So it slides in. We're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna put some Molly Note on this and rub it around. Just want to make sure it's nice and lubed. You got that, you can slide that on. It's time to get your block back out because you're going to have to push this rod through the bottom. And it's easier to do it on a stand. So now that we got our O-rings in on the bottom, O-ring on the pump shaft, we're going to put some Vaseline inside the cylinder. You don't have to be too shy with this. I usually lob it up pretty good. I just want it nice and loose so you never have to do this again. So I fill the inside all the way down. I'll usually work the top first. Then we'll put the pump shaft in. And you should be able to push and pop it in. I push this all the way down. Then I get some more Vaseline and I rub it inside the walls again. Once it looks like it's nice and lubed up, you can go ahead and install the O-ring that goes on the top plate as well. Groove goes inside. Put the O-ring right inside. Got our O-ring, same thing, use a little Molly note. Rub it around. Get it in. Start guiding it into the hole. I usually start at one end and work my way around. It's the easiest way I've found. And I pull it away from the center so it fits in nice and smooth. Okay. Now we got that O-ring. We have to go back to our transfer tube. Now these have two O-rings as well. They're OB12s. We're gonna change those out real quick. So we're gonna put Molly note, a little bit on it. Each one, slide it up over. Do the same thing to the opposite side. Once you got the O-rings replaced, you can install it in the tube. You can see it. There's a set screw on the back. So we slide that in. Try to get it in as straight as possible. You should hear it. It should click. I usually try to give it a little spin. Now we can install the top plate. So the transfer tube goes here where the set screw is, same as this. So you can't go wrong installing this back. Set it in. What I try to do is I try to line it up. As you can see, it's a little crooked. So you want to line this tube up first. I usually put that in first. Lay it on a nice flat surface, and you should be able to push it right in. You hear it snap. I usually give it a little twist to make sure I know I'm in there. Once I know I'm in and it looks straight, I usually get a rubber mallet or something soft. You just want to tap the edges, make sure you got it nice and square so it's flat, and then we can install our bolts again. So we got a nut, got a washer, and a lock washer. So bolt goes through the top of the washer, through the bottom. You got the washer, lock washer, nuts. Now we're just gonna hand tighten these real quick, all the way around. Once we got them all hand tight, all the way around, I usually take the rubber mallet, just knock on it, make sure it's nice and straight, and then we can go ahead and tighten everything up. Okay, now that we got everything tightened up, we can go ahead and install the washer and wiper. So we're changing these out. So we're going to fill this with Vaseline all the way around. You want to fill that cup all the way in. Don't be shy. Make sure it's nice and thick. Once it's all the way full, you want to push this face down. And then your washer fits right over top. We're also going to change out the control valve assembly O-rings on the top of the motor. Same thing. We're going to grab some Molly note. I'm going to rub this on and install inside the grooves. We can go back down to the bottom and install our connector. I use blue Loctite. So you just put a dab, that's all you need, a little dot. And we can install this as so. And like I said, make sure you find a screwdriver or Phillips head that fits inside this hole exactly. And then 11/16 is the flat right here. So if you got 11/16, you put that there and we just tighten it. Okay. Now that we did a complete major rebuild on our air motor, we can set this aside and we can go to our control valve assembly.